What if the biggest sustainability challenge in IT isn't how much data we create, but how much of it we never actually use? Well, my guest today, Piero, he's the VP and General Manager for UK and Ireland at NetApp. And I invited him on here to demystify the world of single-use data. Yep, information that gets stored once, but never touched again. And yet it continues to consume energy, resources, and money. And research shows that 38% of stored data actually falls into this category. And with AI expecting to grow data estates by as much as 50%, this problem is only accelerating. And yet, businesses know this is unsustainable. But whether we're in the office or in our personal lives, digital hoarding, compliance fears, and overvaluing data keeps everybody stuck. So the big question is, how do we balance AI's hunger for data with the need for efficiency, cost control, and a smaller carbon footprint? These are just a few of the things we're going to discuss today. And with that scene perfectly set, let me introduce you to Piero right now. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Neil, thank you, and thanks for the opportunity to speak and to chat. So I'm Piero Gallucci. I'm the NetApp VP and General Manager for UK and Ireland. I've been in the position for 3 years this November. I live in Cheshire with my wife Anna, my 3 boys, Luca, Lorenzo, and Emilio, and our little cockapoo, Coco. I'm a proud Northerner and, unfortunately, an embattled Man United supporter.
Oh, man, tough times for you at the moment, but I'm a Derby County fan, so I've got even tougher times. So.
Yeah, but you're used to it.
Yes, good.
Saying that, so am I these days. So.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you join me on the show today. And every day on here, we try and take a different area and demystify it somewhat. And the term single-use data is something that is becoming more and more common, but many still find it completely abstract. So I've got to ask, to set the scene today, how do you define it and why does it matter in the context of sustainability?
Of course, yeah. So it does matter, and it increasingly matters. So single-use data is information that's used once, if at all, and then it's left to sit in storage. So it's consuming energy and resources, sometimes indefinitely. It's something that, as NetApp, we've been raising awareness about this for years. But why does it really matter? It matters because storing unused data is increasing emissions, it's wasting money, and it's cluttering up infrastructure. We've done quite a lot of. It's a conversation that we have with a lot of our customers and the broader market. And we're seeing. We did a piece of work recently. So 92% of businesses understand this issue, but also importantly the environmental impact of this kind of data is happening. So for me and for NetApp, tackling this single-use data is one of the most impactful ways that IT operations can have a positive impact on their business and contribute to their overall business efficiency.
And of course, cloud costs, resources that storage and IT use is a big topic right now. And your research shows that I think it was 38% of stored data actually goes completely unused. And despite widespread awareness of the environmental impact, I mean, here in the UK during the heat wave, there was the water shortage, hose pipe bans, but the government also came forward and said, maybe you should start deleting emails and images. I don't know if you saw that. So it's something that's cropping into the conversation more and more. So, but what's stopping companies from addressing the problem, do you think?
I think it's a mix of perception and practicality. I mean, for a lot of organizations, there's regulatory and compliance reasons. But I'd also say that many organizations still overestimate the value of their data. So they're treating all of it as equally important. And that just leads to hoarding. Others simply just find it easier and maybe cheaper in the short term just to go and buy more storage, which we don't want to stop them doing that. But we also have a different mission here. And it's easier to do that than just clean it up. But that's just not a sustainable approach. I mean, it's not just an environmental issue. This is a financial one as well. I think, from my perspective, businesses need to do a far better job of rethinking their data as something that requires ongoing care, so cleaning and organizing, rather than just going and buying additional infrastructure.
And you used a great phrase there, digital hoarding. And I think whether we're in the office or in our personal lives, I think we're all guilty of it a little, aren't we? Because that almost infinite amount of storage that you can always put away somewhere just in case.
Yeah, I'm terrible for it, frankly. So as I'm often told by my wife, but look, I think it's just something on all of us. I think that we have a responsibility as we as NetApp have a responsibility, but I think anybody that's in a company has a responsibility to be driving efficiency in the broader respect.
And with 85% of IT leaders linking data management to lower emissions, what practical steps do you think businesses could take today and maybe start reducing that data-related carbon footprint that we don't talk about enough? What should they be doing?
I think the first step is gaining visibility of that data. So we have tools like our NetApp Blue XP sustainability dashboard, which we use with our clients to help identify where those unused energy intensive data lives, and from there we can then start taking action. So whether that's tier cold data to more efficient storage, automating lifecycle policies, so we're deleting and archiving that unused data, consolidating infrastructure, so we're reducing redundancy, and adopting AI-ready data strategies as well. Right? So increasingly prioritize quality over quantity. A number of our customers are doing this and have been doing this for some time. So, we work closely with, for example, Aston Martin Formula One, both at the track side and back in the data center. And they are absolutely obsessed with efficiencies, whether that's efficiencies in what they spend because of cost caps, or indeed efficiencies around sustainability. We also this year announced a global partnership with the NFL. They're managing 350 million customers globally, securely and sustainably, and doing all of this with NetApp technology. So we're seeing this happen with customers out in the market, and we're seeing the results of it every day.
And if we go back, just 3 years, many businesses were getting very serious about sustainability, ESG scores, and bringing down their energy use, etc. And of course, then AI arrived, and many businesses began focusing on that and pulling back from some of the sustainability promises that they made. And of course, AI demands massive data inputs, and businesses still want to be green. I like to believe that they want to do the right thing. So how can organizations better manage that tension between innovation and sustainability? Quite a tricky balance, I think.
It is tricky, and AI is a powerful engine, but it needs the right fuel.
Yeah,
and that means high quality, well managed data, not just more data. So our research is showing that businesses expect their estates to grow by 50% just on the back of AI, the demands around AI, which is making that need for an intelligent infrastructure absolutely essential. But with the right systems in place, these companies can train AI more effectively, and at the same time keep that environmental impact in check. And that's important, right? And it is all about just being more intentional, thinking about how do I curate, how do I clean, and how do I control that data.
And you also found, I think it was 78% of IT leaders have already adapted their data management practices for AI. So for what you're seeing and hearing and all those conversations you're having, what are the most effective changes that some of these IT leaders have made so far?
We're seeing a big shift towards automated data classification. And as well as that, smarter tiering strategies, hybrid cloud adoption. These are real life changes that are helping businesses store not just what's necessary, but in the most efficient way possible. And obviously we're seeing that broad adoption of AI right across the market, whether it's in financial services, where it tends to focus very much around customer experience and and driving and accelerating research, but also on the public sector, where there's a huge focus on reducing costs. How do they reduce or minimize the number of people that they need to deliver essential services? So in order to do that, many are actually using AI to manage AI. So optimizing storage and compute usage to reduce waste. And it's a virtuous cycle, right? Better data management leads to better AI outcomes and a smaller carbon footprint.
And looking at the report here, it also predicts, I think, 41% increase in data estates. So again, how should their tech leaders, not just in the UK, but around the world, how should they be better thinking about scaling their infrastructure in a more climate conscious way?
I think that they need to think beyond just capacity. We're seeing these, and it's in the press almost on a daily basis. These huge, particularly at the moment, in the last week or so, with these huge investments that have been announced by NVIDIA and by Microsoft, and it just feels at the moment it is it's a race to fill up the data center.
Yeah.
But scaling and sustainability at the same time means designing more modular, energy efficient infrastructure, making sure you're embedding data lifecycle management from the start, and making sure you're choosing cloud and storage solutions that are optimized for both performance and sustainability. And at NetApp, we're helping customers build these intelligent data infrastructures that grow with them as they need to grow without growing their emissions.
And storage often sits in the background of any AI conversation out there, especially when we're scrolling down our news feed. So why should it be front and center from your vantage point here, especially when talking about sustainable digital growth? What does it mean to you?
Look, storage is where all data lives. If we don't manage it wisely, we're just building huge digital landfills. And we're seeing it overlooked. We're seeing a lot of organizations overlook this in the race to AI, in the race to just get positioned against the competition. They're overlooking these sustainability conversations. At NetApp, we believe storage should be front and center. If we can design smarter storage, that means less waste, lower emissions, and fundamentally better business outcomes. So it should be the foundation of any responsible digital strategy.
And to give anybody listening somewhat of a valuable takeaway for their company, for their leadership teams, and they're just beginning to maybe align their AI strategy with environmental goals, or maybe it's aspirational for the next few years, what is that one area that they tend to overlook but shouldn't? Any advice there?
Yeah, I think data governance, right? So many businesses are focusing on the compute efficiency, but they're tending to ignore the quality and relevance of the data that's feeding their AI. And not all data is AI ready. So without that proper governance, companies are just going to end up hoarding data. A lot of it's going to be irrelevant. It's going to be insecure, and it's going to be unusable. And, when we talk about security, and we've not really touched on that today. That is an absolutely critical part of this conversation. Look at what's been in the news recently with first of all with Marks and Spencers, and then JLR, and in the last few days with Heathrow Airport as well. So this is it's a huge consideration here. When we're seeing these large neo cloud organizations that are starting to build up, like Nscale in the UK, who are going to be driving inference at scale. This needs to be a real consideration that they lead with data governance in mind if they're truly going to be successful and and deliver the right outcomes for their customers. So educating teams and around that true cost of data, both financial and environmental, that's key if we're going to build a sustainable AI strategy.
And anything you can add on that educating teams, because I think very often we get distracted by the technology and everything that it can do, whereas it's the culture that often needs to change, and people need to be brought along for the ride. They've got their own fears and concerns around AI and tech, etc. And that education piece is crucial, isn't it?
It completely is, right? And I think that's why I go back to my point before. It would be very easy to just sit back and enjoy customers coming to us and purchasing more storage, but I think we have a broader responsibility here. How we can be far more intelligent in deploying, leveraging, and managing the infrastructure to just get more efficient, sustainable, and more effective outcomes.
And on a more personal level, we've been very forward thinking today. We've had a fantastic career. We're looking to the future, the difference that we can make. And one of the things I always try and do with my guests is take them back in time and maybe think about someone that helped them get them where they are. So from your side of things, was there somebody that maybe saw something in you, played a big part in putting you in this role that you're in now? And when you look forward and the difference that you kind of make, whose shoulders are you standing on there? Anyone that you'd like to give a little shout out to?
Well, look, I've had the privilege of working with some incredible mentors, and I have to be careful here. I don't want to upset anybody. So, but look, I think one person that really stands out for me is Andy Isherwood, who I worked for when I was at HP for a number of years. Andy went on to career continued him into AWS. One of the things he taught me was never to be satisfied. There is always more that can be done. And I think thinking about that eventual outcome, thinking about the long-term impact continues to guide my thinking on both when I'm thinking about innovation, sustainability, and the business in general. And I think that mindset has been invaluable for me in just, continuing to shape my career, but probably more importantly now, how we approach data and the market at NetApp.
Wow, I had a quick shout out to Andy there, who's probably blissfully unaware of that impact that he's had on you and your career, and that ethos of having that long-term impact and wanting to make a difference and never being satisfied. So big shout out to Andy. I really hope he gets to hear this, because he's, like I said, he's probably blissfully unaware on the scale of the impact he has. And I think we all sometimes unaware of just spending a little time with someone and mentoring them, the difference it can make, not just in the workplace, but beyond. And before I let you go, it's time to have a bit of fun with you now. We also have a Spotify playlist, and I asked my guests to leave a song that means something to them. It can be anything you want. Guilty pleasures are allowed. We even had pirate metal a few weeks ago. But what would you like to add and why?
I know you called this out at the beginning. It's a really difficult. So I'm a real big music lover. I used to DJ some years ago, not so much these days. So I have a very broad taste in music. But for me, growing up in Manchester, late 80s, I remember going to a very early Stone Roses concert, 1989, International 2. At a time when nobody had heard of the band, and I would call out "I Am the Resurrection" as just that. Something changed that night. Something changed in me, and I always look back at that, and I don't think I was ever the same afterwards.
Oh, man, we must be around about the same age, because I discovered him in a similar way. But absolutely phenomenal band. Great choice. I will proudly get that added to the playlist. And on a work side of things, anyone wanting to dig deeper on this report that we've mentioned today, or the work you're doing at NetApp, anywhere in particular you'd like to point people?
Yeah, look, so, a lot of information out there. You can explore what we're doing around sustainability and the intelligent data infrastructure solutions at netapp.com sustainability. I'm also pretty busy on LinkedIn, so you can see what I'm posting there, and just follow NetApp, at NetApp across all of the social media channels. We also have our annual global technology event this 13th to the 15th of October in Las Vegas, if anybody's got a bit of wants to do a little bit of traveling. So we're going to be out there. That's going to be all the new announcements. And then 2nd of December, we're going to take all of that information and run a one-day event in London to which you are all very welcome to attend. Just get in touch.
Awesome. Well, I'll add links for everything you mentioned there. Make it easy for people to find whatever it is that they're looking for. And we did cover a lot today. And I would throw out to the people listening, no matter what industry you're in, we're talking about cloud costs, the energy, the resources it uses. What are you doing as well as chasing that AI dream that so many are right now? I'd love to hear everybody's thoughts on that. But more than anything, just thank you for shining a light on this today and even giving us a cracking song for the Spotify playlist, which is arguably the best closing track of an album ever, but we'll let that is also up for debate. But thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Neil. Really appreciate it.
What I love about Piero's perspective here is that it reframes data from being something that we just endlessly accumulate and put it into something that we actively care for. Smarter storage, lifecycle management, data governance. These aren't just technical issues anymore. They're actually cultural choices that shape whether AI can be sustainable or wasteful. And beyond the tech, Piero is just the kind of guy I could just talk with for hours, not only about cloud costs and sustainability and AI, but also Stone Roses and obscure songs from Deacon Blues' Raintown album. Something we talked about after we finished recording there, and the conversation took me straight back to my paper round days, listening to Born in a Storm, Loaded and Love's Great Fears on repeat. And listening to those songs and through the lenses of nostalgia, combined with Piero's story about Andy and how he embedded that make a difference mindset in him. I think it just reminded me that behind every business leader tackling future problems, there's a human story and there's a soundtrack shaping the way that they think. So I guess the real question is, how will you treat your data differently after listening to this conversation, though? What is your favourite track off the Stone Roses or Raintown album? Let me know as always. Techblogwriter at outlook.com, LinkedIn, X, Instagram, just at Neil C. Hughes. Time for me to go now. And as Piero has given me a good old-fashioned case of earworm, I'm going to go listen to some of those tunes. Speak with you all tomorrow. Bye for now.